I was watching Charles Carroll today, and Charles said it would be good if we spent 4 hours every morning in meditation and prayer, if we learned the sacred texts. I read a comment by Ziv Fuchs, Mr. Fox, today, and I read this comment. It was a detailed comment. Ziv Fuchs, he said, the will is pretty weak. The will is pretty weak. The weak is like, or the will. The weak, the will, pretty much the same thing, right? But the will is weak. The will is like, I want to get out of this prison. I want to be different. I want to change. The will is saying all these things that it would like to do. And he said the will is really the will to will. The will is not actually action. The will is not doing the thing itself. The will is like, I wish I had the desire to do this so much so that it actually happened. The will is just this hypothetical, theoretical. So he's saying the will is weak. What you need is a system. What you need is a system that gets you from point A to point B. And that's not going to be your individual will. That's going to be a system. There's a lot of different kinds of systems out there, I suppose. But some of those systems have been around for a while. Some of those systems have worked pretty good. We got a system here. We got a system in our hands. It's called the Bible. So the idea that you can just walk out of the prison, maybe some people can. Everyone has to kind of judge for themselves. Do you feel limited? Do you feel your life is limited, or do you feel that your life is full of unlimited potential? You've got to ask that question. I don't know the answer to that question. I can't jump into your mind and tell you how you feel. But if you say, no, I feel like I am limited. I feel like I'm not living in some way. I'm not free. Not because of exterior material things, but internally. I feel like I'm doing a lot of self-sabotage. Some people might say, oh, you have a revelation, or you're born again, or you ask Jesus into your heart, or you accept the forgiveness of sins, or for the Muslims, you would just say there is no God but Allah. And then, after this kind of breaking point, after this kind of one and done, you leave the prison, you never go back. Remember Gollum and Smeagol? Remember Lord of the Rings? And Smeagol has that scene where he's like, leave now and never come back. Remember he says that? And he thinks he's done. He's kind of like a drug addict. He's gone to AA the first time, and he's like, whoa! I'm free from this prism of Gollum. I can be Smeagol. I can be my true self. But of course, what we discover by the end of the movie is that this Smeagol creature, he thinks it's a one and done. It's not a one and done. He thinks that the suffering and the pain and the betrayal and the humiliation over it, it's not over. It's never over. It's always going to come creeping back. The temptation to go back into that prison. For Smeagol, it's this hatred and this lust for the ring, right? It's complicated and it's symbolic, but at the same time, we've all seen Gollum and Smeagol in other people. We've all seen it within ourselves. We've all seen that kind of disgusting desire to be imprisoned. In his case, it's this ring that imprisons him, the shape of the ring. Smeagol, he wants the ring. It makes him into just look at him, right? It's disgusting. He's like a pervert. And he thinks he's freed. He does like this prayer or whatever. He does this big event, leave now and never come back. And then he thinks it's over. That itself is deceptive because, of course, we see what happens to Smeagol. He just goes back to his old ways. He doesn't have a system. He doesn't seem to understand that Gollum never goes away. Gollum's always there. Gollum's just waiting for you to go back to being Gollum. There's no one and done with it where it's like, oh, well, it was that one time Jesus went on the cross and that was it. Now we're all good. Clearly, if you feel like you're all good, turn off the video, go back to being all good. But if you don't feel like you're all good, you need a system, right? You don't need a one and done. You don't need a one and done, because if the temptation for imprisonment is eternal and it's always recurring, it's always coming back, it never goes away, it's just always present, it's ever present, and you can never eliminate it, you can never castrate it, you can never get rid of it, you can never cut it out of your life, it's just there. It's like your sleep paralysis demon. He's just sitting in the corner. He's just waiting for you to look at him, to pay attention. That's what he wants. He just wants attention. And you can give it to him, and then you can get trapped in that prison of fear. If all you have is one and done magic tricks of like, oh, well, died on the cross, I was born again, I got baptized. That has always not appealed to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you just have a strong enough one and done, maybe if you just try some ayahuasca. Maybe it's like a drug, it's like a pill. Take the red pill, you just swallow the pill and then you're cured. And the rest of your life is free. I think life is a struggle. I think it's a day-to-day, at least from my perspective. Other people, if you're living on easy, if life is easy for you, if you've taken that red pill, you've accepted that salvation, everything's just easy, that's good. That's good to hear. I'm very glad for you. From my perspective, it's like the imprisonment of limitation and self-sabotage is a constant sleep paralysis demon sitting in the corner of the room, constantly like howling for attention. And you can do crazy things. You can jump off a building, or you can go skydiving, or you can take drugs, or you can have some kind of momentous experience. You can read a book. I read this book already. You can just read the book and then put it down and say, everything's all good. That Hungarian play, The Tragedy of Man, I've watched that a few times. It just goes over this cyclical temptation that people fall into. Username ZachG932 on Twitter. He's been doing some religious studies work. You can see, you can go check out his Twitter and see what it's all about. But basically, he just shows this explosion. We've had a religious revival in America, an explosion. And I watched a 9-year-old little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl with a megaphone crying, talking about how Black Lives Matter. And I thought, this is spiritual. You may say it's like demonic, or you might think it's angelic. But when I was watching that, I almost hit a point where I was like, in an anti-Nietzschean sense, right? Because Nietzsche would say that it doesn't matter whether you're Christian or liberal, it's all a bunch of nonsense. I reached this point where I was like, we have different doctrines, we have different ideologies. Christianity is clearly distinct. This new religion that's coming, there's clearly a difference. But at the same time, the passion and the desire for virtue and the desire for the death of the ego in both of these religions, there is power to that. I think there's power to that. So I watched this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl saying Black Lives Matter, and she's crying. And I'm seeing her passion. I'm seeing her intention. Her intention is to say, I don't want to do what's best for me. I don't want to act narcissistically. I don't want to be selfish. I want to do what's good for others. I want to make the world a better place. I don't want to just make it a better place for me. I want to make it a better place for everyone. We can critique the poison of ideology that's given her the wrong tools for the job, or the wrong keys to the lock, but she has the right intention. I saw the beauty of her intention. That was powerful to me. And I'm seeing the beauty of a lot of intention. I'm seeing the fear of, there's this YouTuber, coryxkenshin, and coryxkenshin talks about how he's afraid to go on a jog because he might get murdered by a white man. And I like coryxkenshin. I think he's funny. He's a Christian, and I think he is not malicious. I don't think he's full of hatred. I think he has fear, and I think he doesn't understand the concept of statistics. But then you look on the right wing and you also see people don't understand the concept of statistics, because what they're worried about is like these shark attacks. They're worried about shark attacks. They're worried about, what if a shark breaks into my home and attacks me? They're engaged in one like this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. She's engaged in a system. Let me tell you, she's in a system. And she's trying her best, and I respect her for trying her best, but at the same time, the system that she's in might be leading her astray, and it might be not what's best for humanity, and it might even be directed from on high and purposefully created in a Machiavellian sense. And that's where I guess a little bit of Nietzschean analysis comes in. And you can apply that Nietzschean analysis to this system as well and say, okay, well, it's all just domestication and civilization and mechanization, and then that really goes into Heidegger. When you start getting into religion as a form of technics, power, this inescapable power, are we to worry about this power? Are we to worry about creating a life where we're powerful? How can we be powerful if we're broken? If we just focus on power, if we focus on intellect and ideology, the perspective of a man who's living in a prison and he's scrawling on the walls and he thinks that's doing something, well, that's kind of a sad state of affairs. But if it's possible to walk out of that prison, then maybe things are open to us. Maybe power is open to us. Because the system of rambling, it's an internal system. Much like this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl who's in the system of liberalism, you see she's in a system and it's captured her. She's captured by this system. I've been captured by systems as well. I've been captured by a lot of systems, and I've internalized those systems, but I don't know that those systems are helping me in the same way. I don't know that her system's helping her. I think she's really invested in it. These systems themselves are prisons. What kind of prison do you want to be in? Do you want to be in the prison that is a prison of protection, like a knight with shining armor? In some ways, he's imprisoned by his armor. Do you want to be imprisoned by a straitjacket? What kind of prison do you want to be in? What kind of system? What kind of ecology? You know, we can't just float in the void. If you float in the void, you don't exist. And maybe that's the best. Maybe that is liberation. Maybe just floating in the void. I was watching some Frank Yang. I haven't seen him in a while. Frank Yang was basically suggesting, he's just saying, you know, float in the void. Don't even exist. Don't even exist. Just float in the void. Don't be attached to these thoughts and ideas. Don't be attached to yourself and your ego. Don't care about what goes on in the world. Just float in the void. Just have like total release. And that's the way to go. That's the way to be. Possibly. I don't know. That's hard. It's also weird. It's weird to think that he's making a YouTube video that's probably monetized or whatever, and he's a bodybuilder and all these things. It's like, do I even trust the words coming out of your mouth when you just talk about the void and you just talk about floating free in space? I don't know if I trust that. I don't know if I believe in that. There's kind of a leap of faith that you need to make to get into that. Of course, they would say you just have to eliminate all that, but it's like when you're in front of a camera saying that, it's like, why are you still alive? If you've achieved some kind of transcendence, why are you even living here on the earth? It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe you're just supposed to embrace the paradox, and that's the most satisfying state of affairs. It's all very complicated, but in any case, externalizing what's internal to me, like a spider creating a spider web and not catching any flies. What I think might be better is if I take a look at this, which somebody else made, somebody else produced this, not as a one and done of like, I'm going to read this book and then be done with it forever. But if I read the book as a practice, as a form of prayer, meditation, as a system, you know, you have the sleep paralysis demon over there, but then you have like the angel or whatever the opposite would be. The dream, we just keep on dreaming. This is a dream. You know, I never stop dreaming. I dream almost every night. I dream a lot. I dream about a lot of things. And those dreams are a form of imprisonment because I'm kind of imprisoned in the dream state. I can't get out. I can't wake up. And I'm in the state. What do I want to dream about? What do I want to dream about? Do I have any influence over that? Do I have to dream nightmares and scary things? I've had bad dreams. Is that how I want to live my life in a nightmare? Or do I want to have heavenly dreams that are positive? So it's not a question of like, I just need to have this one dream and then it's over. It's like, no, it's a process. We just keep dreaming. What kind of dreams do I want to have? So we'll read this. We'll read this. How many? It's been 18 minutes. You can see I'm very attached to my rambling as something that I cannot let go of. We're gonna give a 30-second adjustment and then we'll get right into this. Hold on to your horses.